Ayetavach, Amaldigevach, Avach, fill mit Yeshiyah. Ay, Leidim, Moisoid. Bottom line, another week, 5 weeks in, we're going strong, incredible. And the crazy news over Shabbos, I'm sure everybody heard, that the Khomeini is gone, and it's still a scary time, so we always have to make sure we daven and have in mind the Yidden in Eretz Yisrael, and that there should be no Yiddish casualties from everything that's going on. So today's learning will be a schis for all the Yidden that are fighting or assisting in this war, whatever you want to call it. Also, it's a schis for Akiva Simcha ben Fega, Chava bas Miriam, Ahuv bas Miriam, and David ben Penina Perel. Now, we're going to start. Last week when I did the review, I missed out the last little bit before the Mishnah on Chav Beis Amud Beis. So we're going to do that last little part. It's 4 lines up from the Mishnah by Hamauva Kimin Bayis. We're going to go till Chav Gimel Amud Beis, the first line, which is where we got up to. Okay. Someone who makes his sukkah on top of a wagon. Oh, I gotta go back 1 second. A few lines back. Hamauva Kimin Bayis. So we was discussing in the Mishnah over there that if the ceiling or where the schach is so thick that it's like the roof ceiling of a house, it's still going to be kosher. So now, what does it mean? Tana Rabbanan, the Rabbanan learned, Hamauva Kimin Bayis, Afal Pisha Nekachavim Nirim Mitaycha Kshira. Even though you can't see from inside, you're looking up and out, and you can't see stars, it's still kosher. Now, but if the sun's rays you can't see from within, meaning you're inside and you don't see rays coming through, so the Gemara brought this little part. Bishamai passes it, and Bisol says it's kosher, and that's the end of that sugya. And now we're starting to do Mishnah, and where we started learning this week. Someone makes a sukkah on top of a wagon or on top of a boat, it's kosher. And you go onto it on Yom Tov. If it's on top of the tree, or on top of the camel, it's kosher. And we don't go on top of it on Yom Tov. Why? And we said you don't go on top of it on Yom Tov, but it is good. That's why it's kshera. And we're going to see why. But later on, we're going to see that the Rameir and all that why we do not or do go onto these sukkahs. Excuse me. Oh yeah, I didn't have my signature coffee cup. I already had a cup of coffee after Shabbos, and now I need some water to keep the throat clear. If the person has the floor is being supported by 2 of the sides have a tree supporting it and 1 is man-made, or 2 sides of the floor have a man-made support beam holding it up and 1 side has a tree, it's kosher, and you do go on top of it on Yom Tov. If 3 are a b'dei Adam and 1 by a tree, it's also kosher. And you go on top of it in Yom Tov. I made a mistake. The last one said kshir of ein oil b'yom tov, meaning if it's 2 by man, 1 by tree, 2 by tree, 1 by man, those cases ein oil. I read it oil. Now, zaklal. This is the klal. We're moving on to Chav Gimel Amud Aleph. Kol she'yinotel ha'ilon v'yichol lamod b'fnei atzma. In any case where you can remove the tree, you imagine the tree is gone and the floor will stay up there. Kshir is kosher v'oil b'yom tov, and you can go on top of it in Yom Tov, which is this case of 3 with 1. Zog the Gemara. Now you want to understand who said this part of the Mishnah, the first part. Mani Masnisan, who's this Mishnah going according to? Who wrote this Mishnah? Rabbi Kiva here, Rabbi Kiva. The Tanya was we learned in a Brisa, which is going to support this proof to say that it's Rabbi Kiva. Someone who puts his sukkah on top of a boat, Rabbi Gamliel says it's possible. Rabbi Kiva Machshir. Rabbi Kiva's Machshir. So we see, and now we're going to bring out the whole story, and we're going to end off basically saying that Taka, this Mishnah is Rabbi Kiva because he holds firmly that you're allowed to make a sukkah on top of a boat. Firmly, he holds the arai, not firm, not permanent structure, but yes. Firmly, he holds that an arai would be good. Ma'aseh Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Kiva, Shahayu Ba'am Besfina. A story, Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Kiva, they were going by boat. Amad Rabbi Kiva va'asa sukkah b'reish sfina. Rabbi Kiva went and he built a sukkah on top of the boat. L'machar nishma ruach v'kata. The next day came and a powerful wind came and destroyed the sukkah. Amad Rabbi Gamliel, Akiva hechen sukkasech. Rabbi Gamliel tells Rabbi Kiva, Akiva, where's your sukkah? Basically telling him, you see, I said it's not good for this specific reason. It can't stand. So now we have Abayis coming and he's going to explain their reasonings. Furthermore, he's going to explain the brisa further. Amar Abayis says, everyone agrees that in a case that the sukkah cannot withstand a breeze, a standard breeze on land, then it's no good. If it can't withstand it, it's not even arai, it's no good. Everyone agrees. Now, another case where everyone agrees, meaning Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Gamliel, is if there's a powerful wind on the land, 50, 60, 70 miles an hour gusts and winds, tornado style, and it can withstand it, it would be a kosher sukkah. So ki pligi, when do they argue? In the middle ground, which is what? Where it can withstand a ruach matsuya of the land, meaning a regular breeze, and it cannot withstand a super powerful wind on the ground. So could withstand a little breeze, can't withstand the powerful wind. That's sort of in between that space, which everyone agrees. So now that's where they're arguing. Rabbi Gamliel savar sukkah diras keva binan. Rabbi Gamliel holds that it has to be keva. The kivan deini yechol lamed bruch mitzuyah diyam like. And since it cannot withstand a regular wind of the ocean, he used this term, and Rashi explains the regular wind of the ocean is the powerful wind of the land. Since it cannot withstand that, he says it's no good, and therefore he says it's what's it called? He says it's not keva, and therefore it's not kosher for a sukkah. Lo klumi, it's worthless for him. Rabbi Kiva savar sukkah diras arai binon. Rabbi Kiva holds a sukkah has to be a temporary structure. Since it can withstand a small light wind, it's kosher. He's not concerned that it does not withstand a powerful wind. In his mind, Rabbi Kiva is saying, listen, sometimes there's no winds in the ocean. Sometimes it's a regular day. So if we're going to have a sukkah there, it's a temporary structure. It could work. It's going to come a wind and it's going to destroy it. Okay, I'll worry about it then. But Rabbi Gamliel says, no, it's got to be able to withstand it. And now we're going to move on to the second part of the Mishnah. Oyal gabe gamel, or on top of the camel, meaning you put the sukkah on top of the camel. Masis and Mani. Again, we're going to ask, who wrote this part of the Mishnah? Rabbi Meir here to Rabbi Meir. This Tanya, because we have a brisa. Again, we're bringing a brisa to support the Mishnah. And we explained what's a brisa. A brisa is something that just did not make the cut, but it is written by Tanaim, and many times it's a little bit more expanded or more worded, and it's not as short as what a Mishnah would be. So therefore, many times we use brisas to support what Mishnahs say. The Tanya we learned in the brisa. Rabbi Meir says it's kosher. Rabbi Yehuda says you cannot make a sukkah on top of a behema. My time with Rabbi Yehuda, what's the reason Rabbi Yehuda? Amakra, it says in the pasuk Chag HaSukkos Tasla Chashavos Yamim. He has a pasuk that says you should make a Chag HaSukkos for 7 days. Sukkah harila shiva shmo sukkah. So he says, okay, I have a pasuk that says 7 days. A sukkah that could stand 7 days is considered a kosher sukkah. It's a shma sukkah. It's named sukkah. Sukkah shein harila shiva leishma sukkah. A sukkah that's not right to be that you could go up onto it for 7 days is not a sukkah. What is that? Yom Tov, the first day of Yom Tov, Shabbos. Those days you're not allowed to go on top of a animal which has a sukkah on top of it. If you can't go on top of it, no good. For Meir. Hanami, so what does Rameir do? Hanami midaraisa me'achzechazis. He says midaraisa he would be allowed to go onto it. It would be a kosher sukkah. Therefore, he says it's kosher. V'rabanu de gazruba. So he says, listen, this sukkah is right for 7 days. He learns the same pasuk like Rabbi Yehuda, and he says, okay, this sukkah is right. It happens to be there's a darabanan that you can't go on the first day, but like we learned by the Mishnah and that Rashi says that if, let's say, someone was to go on it, he would be Yartzin Mitzvah. Therefore, you see, it's kosher. Nu Sugya, the little base over here tells us, it says, Ton Rabbanan Asa. Basically, it's missing over here the Ton Rabbanan, which tells you it's a new Sugya, not following from the last. Ton Rabbanan. Rabbanan learned, Asa lebehema, doifen l'sukkah. Someone uses an animal for a wall of a sukkah. Reb Meir plays over the machshir. Over here, Reb Meir is going to be the machmir, and Reb Yehuda says it's good. Meaning, in general, you're allowed to have anything for the walls of the sukkah, and Reb Meir says, okay, what about a behema? Reb Yehuda says, what about a behema? Okay. Shahai Reb Meir Aimer Kol Davar Sheish Beruach Hayim Einosin Oisai Lo Doifen l'sukkah. So why does Reb Meir say you can't use it for a sukkah? So we say, okay, we have a place where Reb Meir says anything that has life in it, Ruach Hayim Einosin Oisai Lo Doifen l'sukkah. You don't use it for a wall for a sukkah, which is our case. And we had a bunch more. What he says over there, V'lo lechi l'mavoi, not a lechi for a mavoi, like we described. Excuse me. So lo lechi l'mavoi, not a lechi for a mavoi. Like we described, a lechi is basically it's a courtyard, an area going into the main road where you would technically be allowed to carry, but the Rabbanan regards that you have to have a lechi or a kaira as a simon in order to carry there. So here you cannot use the animal for a lechi, which is a side post. V'loid pasan lebirais and not pasan lebirais, which again, the yidden would be on the regel. The wells, the public wells, would be in public places, and the well itself would be 10 tfachim deep by 4 tfachim wide around, and that would be a Rishos Yachid of its own. So if you would take water out of the well, you'd be taking it from the well, which is Rishos Yachid, into Rishos Rabbim. So they realized there would be a problem, and they created a thing where they basically allowed us to be able to put Pasan B'rais, which would be, it's called Diyumdin. You would have 1 tefach by 1 tefach in 4 corners, and that would be good in order to bring the water out. And that we don't use an animal for one of those 4 corners. And not a seal or covering for a kaver, which is described as either like a casket cover, what would happen is that if, let's say, you would use a casket cover for a casket, and later on you take that casket cover, move it someplace else, that would maintain the tumah of the guf that's within it. However, if you use this animal, it would not maintain it and it wouldn't work. So you cannot use it for that. You also don't write the get for a woman on the animal. Now, my time with Reb Meir. Okay, what's the reasoning of Reb Meir that he says that you cannot use a wool for the thing? Now we see he says all this stuff that you don't use something that has ruach chaim. Okay, but what's his reasoning for why? Why does he get to that point? So now we have Abaya and Reb Zer are going to have two different ways to explain the shita of Reb Meir. Abaya Amar Shamatamas. Abaya says perhaps the animal is going to die, and if it dies, then you're not going to have 10 tefachim because it's going to slump down. And if you don't have 10 tefachim wall, then that wall is possible. And if you don't have a kosher wall, then you'd have a kosher sukkah. Reb Zera Amar Reb Zera says Shemativrach, again, same thing, the wall's going to run away. It's going to be a problem. So we say, okay, let us say that the case is bepil kosher, kuli amalei pligi. So they both give their reasonings. So now we say, okay, bepil kosher, kuli amalei pligi, everyone agrees that it's okay. And Rashi explains, everyone, Abaye, Reb Zera, in Reb Meir, all agree that it is okay for the wall. Why? Because it's tied up, so it's not going to run away. And the inai mayis yesh ben avlas. And if an elephant dies and it slouches down, you still have 10 tefachim of a wall, so you're good. So both of them agree that that would be fine. Key pligi. So now we want to find out, when do they argue? Bepil she'enei kosher, with the elephant that's not tied up. Leman da'amar shematamos lechashinon. To the man that says that what are we concerned about, that it's going to die? We're not concerned, because if it dies, then you have the 10 tvachim. The man to the man that we're concerned that it may run away and you won't have a wall, we're taka are nervous. So there you see there's a difference. So now we're going to ask a question. 1 second. Abaya, you that's worried that it's going to die, aren't you worried maybe that's going to run away also? You should be concerned of the more common thing. What's more common? The animal to walk away and not to die. So we say, Okay, the Gemara concedes. Good question. So now we're going to say no. With an elephant that's tied up, everyone agrees that it would be fine. With an elephant that's not tied up, everyone agrees that it would be a problem. So now what are we going to do? So we're going to say ki pligi bebehema kshura. So now we're switching. No more elephant. We just went through if the elephant's tied up, if the elephant's not tied up. Done. Now we're moving on to behema. Now, with a tied up behema, according to the Manda Amar, which is Abaya, who's concerned that if it's going to die, you're not going to have 10 tefachim of space. Taka, we have that problem because an animal, a regular animal, a donkey or whatever it is, you won't have 10 tefachim. So that's a problem. The Manda Amar according to the Manda Amar, maybe it's going to run away. You're not concerned. Why? Because it's tied in place. So now we say, so we ask the same thing on Abaya. What about the other thing? Are you concerned for that? So over here we're going to ask the same thing on Reb Zera. You that says you're worried about it running away and now it's tied up. Okay, very good. What happens if it dies? Then it will be a problem. So he says, no, that the animal dying during these 7 days is not so common. I'm not worried about it. Very good. Now we're going to ask a question on him. But there's space between both its legs. Between the legs, I mean the donkey or goat, whatever it is, there's a gap from the ground to the belly. And the legs are not so full. What do you do with all that space? That would be a problem too. So we say the Avid Le Behutza V'Dafna, it was filled with like branches and bushes and just stuffed up. Vidilma River, okay. Great, you stuffed it up, so now you have a full wall. But what happens if it tries to sit down? Maybe crush it. And when it sits down, the upper part of it, there'll be a gap from the top of the back of the donkey to where the schach is, or to where 10 tefachim is. And that would be a problem. So we say, the Mesicha Ba'ashli Mila'el. No, we have a solution for it. For all your questions, we have solutions. Even this one, we're going to tie a cord, and not from above. We're going to put a beam across above, tie a bunch of cords, and if it tries to sit down, it won't be able to. So now we say, great. If you're going to say this over here with this animal that's tied up, why don't we say it with the animal that may die? If it dies, just say it's tied up, so it's tied into place. It's dead, and it's still staying stuck up there. It's tied up from above. Let's say the same thing. So what's the answer? Here's the problem. Even if you want to say you're tying it up, what happens if the animal is 7 tefachim and a little bit high? And now you put it within 3 tefachim of the schach. So it's almost 3 tefachim away from the schach. And once it dies, kavtza, it will slouch down, and you won't realize that it's now outside the 3 tefachim space from the schach, which again, within 3 tefachim you can say lavud, but now that it's more than that, you can't say lavud, you won't notice it, and you're thinking that you're having a kosher wall, and really, you don't have a kosher wall, you don't have a kosher sukkah. Rabbi Sai, it's been a great road so far. We're 5 weeks in. The Olam is mamish knocking, doing the week of the Chazaras, doing the Chazaras. Keep rocking, and Emir Hashem, we're going to keep going forward. I will Be'ezus Hashem see everybody Wednesday night back in Bismajish, Afreichem Purim, and Agit Tavach.